to Career Transition Assistant, Understanding You. Congratulations on taking ownership of your background. And I am your host, Jean Filipiak, recruiting and career coach, as well as behavioral talent analyst. Today's session is for individuals who have been downsized, right-sized, or in fact their company is closing, and you are now in our Career Transition Assistant program. And this session is all about understanding you, your DISC profile, as well as your motivators and how it relates to occupations best suited for you. We use the science of self to reveal your behaviors, your motivators, and then translate them as it relates to your job, your work environment, and communication styles that are needed and are in the workplace. The goal is to really understand how you do the things that you do and why you do the things you do, and equate it to an occupation that is best suited for you. We're also going to be talking about what the real truths are about the employment world and why it's so important to uncover this information. So we're going to talk a little bit about you incorporated, and then of course we're going to go through and unpack your DISC assessments, which includes your behaviors and your motivators. So let's talk about you incorporated first and foremost. I have been recruiting for the past 17 years, and during these 17 years we've seen a huge disconnect between what an employer is thinking and feeling and what a job seeker, let alone an employee, is thinking and feeling. So to understand the mindset of an employer today or who your next position is going to be for, you really have to understand what it's like to be out in the employment world. And this information is given to us through research, through data, through science, through our experiences working with employers from high-tech to low-tech. And what employers are saying to us in those low-tech, high-tech industries is they're looking for individuals who have an ownership mindset. They're looking for individuals who have the get-it factor. So while you're going through this career transition, it's important for you to kind of open your mind and really understand that as you've been keeping your head down, doing a great job with your current company or your past company, that the world around you has changed, and it has changed incredibly. One of those reasons that the world has changed, let alone the employment world, is because of the infuse of technology. Today, in order for a business to stay a business, they have to be working on all cylinders, and they have to be working harder, smarter, faster, and better in order to stay in business. And let's face it, more and more job seekers and employees are faced with uncertainties like they've never had before. They're faced with the understanding that a company needs to make decisions in order for that company to stay in business. So they're really looking at, should we stay, should we close, should we right-size, should we downsize in order to continue their business plans. A lot of companies are working a lot harder, smarter, and faster. They're doing a lot more with less, which requires individuals to work at a multitude of different levels than they ever had before. We're expecting, salespeople to be analytic. We're expecting analytical people to be salespeople, and that is what is happening in the employment sector. Because we're working faster because of technology, we've researched since 2005 that these employers are looking for job seekers and employees to have this ownership mindset, to take control of their own destiny within their work environment. And that's why we spend a great deal of time of sharing and helping you understand that you do own a business, and the business you own is your background. And in your background, you do have departments, and those departments are human resources, operations, sales and marketing, technology, and finance. When you took the assessment, the career assessment, this is allowing you to spend some time in human resources, because the human resource aspect of your business model is really understanding thyself. because employers are looking to hire a whole person coming into their environment. And that a whole person does encompass behaviors, which we're discussing today, your motivators, which we will be discussing today, but there is also other things that you're bringing to the equation, such as your worldview, your self-view, your intellect, you're bringing your emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is becoming more and more a predictor of success. And when leaders and employees embrace emotional intelligence, that's where additional greatness lies. You're also bringing your skills and your experiences to the party, let alone no two brains think alike. So that's why through technology and through coaching and through self-awareness, we are able to reveal some really good information that can help you leverage the way you brand yourself, the way you predict your resume, the way you interview, and it's really the part of human resources and self-reflection that allows you to gain some insight to help you capitalize on being your best self, and then of course being your best self when it comes to the interview, and then obviously securing that next role, which is what this is all about, right? So when you're in a career transition scenario, you're looking to obtain a role that's best suited for you, as well as a role in which you can make a direct impact on that next organization. So this segment will allow you to uncover what makes you unique and how that information, how those behaviors can help leverage that. So when you look at you defined, and we talked about these operations, departments, human resources, it's understand how your behaviors and your motivators translate to the business world. Then you look at operations. This takes a self-directed approach to your career growth, holding yourself accountable and mapping out a strategic plan and how you're going to get from point A to point B. More and more employers are looking and will be asking you specific questions in an interview in regards to why you chose that role, why and what impact did you have in that position, and how does this all relate to my hiring problem. Sales and marketing, this is the department in which you learn how to represent yourself to your network, your contacts, and your potential employers. So when you get through the next phases of our career transition program through the online course or through one-on-one, that sales and marketing piece is very critical to how you're branding yourself to attract the right opportunities, as well as making sure that you're communicating in a way to an employer that they're going to say, you know what, he can help me solve a problem. Because what's happening today, employers don't have job openings, they have specific problems that is prohibiting them from growing to that next level. And that hiring problem is where they look to you to help them solve that problem. Technology is making sure that you're building a positive online presence and research new opportunities that interest you. So technology is becoming yet another department within the U business model, because it's important to have an online presence because people are Googling you. They're probably Googling you as soon as they get your resume to see what they can find out about you to take the blind date out of the date. So the more an employer can better understand who they might be investing in, this is now resources at their fingertips, where then when you look at the U Incorporated business model, you want to take advantage of those resources as well. So not only are you building an online presence that's employer brand ready, but you're also using technology to research new opportunities for yourself and research companies. If anyone's familiar with Glassdoor, that's a social media site that allows employees to say good, bad, or indifferent about a company. But companies now are also embracing that to really expand on who they are as a company and why you should work for them. And then also the part of finance is know your unique value based on education, skills, and experiences, and know your worth in the market. We have salary.com, indeed.com, and even what I'm going to be discussing later in this program is a government-run website that helps you better understand the job description, the outlook of that specific role, and the wages for your specific territory. And it's called the onetonline.org. So the U Incorporated defined is employers today are truly looking at you as a business owner because you do own a business and the business you own is your background. So let's unpack your DISC assessment. So for those of you on this recording, you should have received either a one-on-one coaching by now and or an online mechanism that'll help you go deeper into your assessment. So for today's topic, we're kind of going to be covering the basics and then obviously offering any questions at the end of this broadcast to individuals who have questions. I will probably stop recording the broadcast when we're opening for questions just because we're using this career transition segment to be able to utilize more than once and offer it to individuals in this career transition program. So what's the point, right? So you're probably listening to me right now and saying, okay, why do we even use this assessment tool? Well, the reason why is we found that employers are using the same assessment to measure job seeker against. So at some point as an employer, as they're learning to hire right and hiring great consultants to be a part of this solution of hiring the right person, they've sat in a room, so they developed a job description, they talked to the key hiring people around the role, and they may even benchmark the position and said, okay, if this job could talk, these are the behaviors and the motivators we need for this position to be successful. And then we're going to align talent to that job. That's why we're using this assessment, is because that's what we were finding out as executive recruiters, that employers were using these assessments in the selection process. So we wanted to arm you with the same information that you could be measured against, but giving you the inside scoop of what they're seeing. Many times people get assessed and they don't even see the results, let alone understand how to leverage the results. So we wanted to arm you with the right tool. So the DISC assessment is a universal language because it's body language. It's really understanding how and why we do the things we do. The how portion of this is behaviors. So behaviors is an observable language. It's a neutral language. There's no right, there's no wrong. It was truly how you were raised and how you were born that allows us to understand your behavioral style. Because it's observable, you can see these behavioral styles when you're in a group, and that group could be waiting at the airport to get on a plane. That group could be on a team. That group could be in a family dinner. You're going to be able to see these behavioral styles, and once you understand the language, you'll be able to leverage that information to enhance your communication between parties. Then it is proven that if you take the how you do the things you do and equate it to occupations from a behavioral style, you will have 93% job satisfaction, because we want to select roles that are in our best self. We want to select roles that makes us perform at an optimum level. Then you match the motivators of why you do the things you do. Then you have, once again, greatness. And then you have an opportunity to nurture the how and the why. The DISC helps us understand ourselves better and it helps us understand our team members. It helps us understand hiring managers of people that you're going to be interviewing with, and it helps develop the process for communicating more effectively with others. So let's look at our behaviors. At this time, I would like you to pull out your individual reports. And if you turn to page 12 or 13, you're going to see your graphs and how your graphs are represented in your profile. So when you look at your natural style, which is on the right-hand side, we got to your natural style based on nature and nurture. Okay? So it's what you really are. It's least changeable. And it's what you are like when you can be you, or at times when you're under stress, pressure, or fatigue, we're going to see that behavioral style. I'm going to go through the definitions shortly after this segment, this page, but I want to make sure you understand the natural style. It's based on who you are as nature and nurture. It is least changeable, and it's what you are like when you can be you, or when we see you under stress, pressure, or fatigue. Now, everybody needs an adaptive style, and we got to your adaptive style the way you respond to the questionnaire that describes you the most. So this adaptive style responds to your environment. This gives an individual an insight in regards to how you're going to behave in an environment that's not conducive to who you are as a person when you're in survive or succeed mode. You can change your adaptive style, and that's another session in itself. You can change your behaviors as long as you are coached through that and you are able to change your mind, to change your thoughts, to change your behaviors. And your motivators of why you do the things you do can also change some of your behaviors accordingly. So as we move on, I wanted to give that introduction in regards to your graph and your behaviors, because when I go through and describe each dimension is what the DIS stands for, so the D, the I, the S, and the C, I'm going to be talking in degrees of 0 to 100%, and you can follow along with your own assessment to gain a stronger insight to your behavioral style. So it's an observable language, it's a neutral language, and it's comprised of individuals having 4 primary dimensions of how an individual behaves based on nature and nurture. So the D stands for dominance, the I stands for influence, the S stands for steadiness, and the C stands for compliance. So let's focus on the primary D. So I'm going to talk about the highs of the D and the lows of the D. So from an observable standpoint, D stands for dominance, so it's how you respond to problems and challenges. So it's how you respond to problems and challenges. The higher you are on the D, so the 50% to 100% D, they're going to readily solve those problems. They love confrontation. They're very active. You can see right there where you say dominance, this person could have a high ego. They could be demanding. They could be decisive. They could be adventuresome. And then as soon as you get to that energy line, you're responsible. And as soon as you cross over, you can enjoy challenges, but now you're going to start avoiding problems and challenges. You're going to avoid conflict. You're going to avoid confrontation. Or you may use your humor or your other dimensions to help you solve those problems and challenges. So you have to remember, this is the DISC language definition, and many times when you hear the word dominance, your mind may go to a negative thought process. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is the ability of that person to solve problems, and we just categorize it in the word dominance. So I want to bring that to your attention because this is how you solve problems and challenges. The higher you are on the D, the more readily you're going to solve them. You're going to love it. You're going to gravitate towards it. Now, keep in mind, the emotion of a high D is that they're quick to anger. So one of their fears is being taken advantage of. So you want to be mindful of that when you're speaking to a dominant dimension, that they may be quick to anger. They're going to need to get it off their chest, and then they'll move on from the problem. They'll explode, and then they'll move on to the problem. Or lower Ds, right, they're going to be slower to anger from that vantage point. There's a place for everybody in this workplace. What we're identifying through this presentation is really, or this broadcast, is one understanding what is your place in the workplace and how does your place relate to other people or other different behavioral styles. The I stands for influence. It's how you respond to your ability to get people to see your point of view. The higher you are on the I, the more readily you're going to be able to get people to see your point of view. You're going to be influential. You're going to be able to seek influence. So this person's going to be very optimistic. They're going to be outgoing. They're going to have, very top inspiring, charismatic, enthusiastic. And then as soon as you get to that energy line, they're going to really just still enjoy people. They're still going to be outgoing. And then as soon as you cross over, they're going to have the opposite characteristic. They may be pessimistic. They're going to be skeptical and very logical. An emotion of a high I is high trust, and a low I is low trust. So I'm sure you've heard throughout your career the personality traits of being extroverted versus introverted. Now it's safe to say that if you're a high I, you are going to be extroverted, but you can't make that assumption that you're a low I, you're going to be introverted. Because you can be a low I and still be very extroverted or outgoing, but it's going to be to the people you know and trust. as opposed to being very trusting to strangers. One of their fears to recognize is that loss of social recognition. So high I's will want to be liked and they want their recognition. As we move on to the definition of steadiness, now when you're looking at steadiness, and you have to remember there's certain degrees of intensities. So when you're looking at the high S, it's how you respond to the pace of your environment. The higher you are on the S, so 50 to 100% S's, they're going to want a slower pace of environment. These individuals are the steady eddies of the group. So they're very steady, they're very patient, they're very consistent, they're very harmonious. If you're an 80% to 100% S, you're going to need about 3 or 4 projects. You're going to love them. You're going to finish them from conception to completion. You're going to be able to multitask those 3 to 4 projects. But if you're adding on the 5th, 6th, or 7th, you're going to have to learn strong time management skills. And then obviously if you're 50 to an 80% S, you can have those 5, 6, 7, 8 projects going on at a time. You're still finishing them from conception to completion. You're all about the team. As you are very steady, very consistent, very patient. On a good day, you can't tell the day that you're having, and on a bad day, you can't tell the day that you're having. You have emotions, you're just not emotional. You're very poker faced. That could be a good thing or a bad thing, right? But remember, there's no right or wrong. It's just a self-awareness of how you respond to the pace of your environment. So higher S's, they're going to want a slower pace of environment. You may not even realize this is what your desire is in because you've worked throughout your whole career in a fast-paced, ever-changing world. But at the end of the day, within that fast-paced, ever-changing world, there are some certain restrictions and opportunities that S's need to be aware of. As soon as you cross over that energy line, these S's, they're quick to change. They enjoy fast-paced. They're moving. They're shaking. They're really active. They will have 7, 8, 9, 10 projects going on at a time. But then really, really low S's, are they finishing those projects? Are they just changing for change's sake? And these are the things that you have to be mindful of. And we work with on an ongoing basis between a high S and a low S, and how do we get along? Because there may be a sense of urgency, but a high S is not demonstrating the same sense of urgency visibly as a low S would be. And sometimes that could cause conflict. If any of my S's are on this call right now, like myself, you know, sometimes these low S's, maybe even a high D, are looking at and saying, I don't think you have a sense of urgency. There's not a level of intensity we need, but we have a level of intensity. We're just not showing it as readily as someone who is the opposite of us. The C stands for compliance, and it's how you respond to policies and procedures set forth by others. That's the key, set forth by others. 50% to 100% C's, they enjoy policies and procedures. If you're 70% to 80%, these individuals are like, give me your plan and I will work your plan. They love structure. They are rule followers. They enjoy having high quality standards. They're very detailed oriented and they're very analytical. 50% to 70% C's, these individuals respect those policies and procedures. They might be helping institute those policies and procedures, and then they have high quality standards and they're also detailed oriented, but they may just, because of their dimension being a little bit lower, they may be, you know, pick and choose which rules they want to follow and don't want to follow, but overall they like following the rules and having the accuracy involved. So high C's, they're low risk, they're passive, they're precise. They love the right use of time. You know, if you ever dealt with a C, they're never late, they're always on time, and they're using their time wisely. Low C's, on the other hand, they're risk takers, they break rules, and they seek independence. So they don't need a lot of policies and procedures. They shoot from the hip. They too are very active. These individuals will not need to use research and data in order for them to make a decision from that vantage point. An emotion that goes with a high C is fear. They're fear of making mistakes. They're fearful of making decisions in the sense of that's why they like their research and their data to support their findings. And then obviously a low C is low fear. So when you're looking at your specific assessment and you are going through your report one by one, it's important to read your report first as yourself, right? And it's natural for you to go to the dark side. natural for a human being to look at the negativities of the report, but really what I challenge you to do is look at your report and read it. Read your characteristics first. Circle, highlight anything that you're concerned about or doesn't make sense to you. And then when you look at your basic needs, when you look at your environment that's best suited for this behavioral style, you want to start now selecting what are important to you and making sure your next business partner, next employer, if you will, what are they, do they have these to satisfy your needs? Is this the right environment for yourself? And then throughout this process, you'll be able to leverage this information to ask the right questions to get to the root of that. As you go to the dark side, and I ask you to read it as yourself first, then I want you to just read it as the behavioral style in general, because many times you may still have this behavioral style, but you've already had coaching or you already had made improvements to help you navigate the employment world or solve problems or to help you with conflict. That you've already said, okay, that's good, I'm aware of it, I already made changes in my life to help me leverage and help me be successful. Then when you're looking at your report, you will get to the point that you're going to see the wheel, which is my next slide. But before I go to the next slide, I just kind of want to give you another looking lens. So DCs are dominance and compliance in nature, and then IS is steady and influence. So if you just go around the square there, DCs are cool, distance, precise, about using time of controls. Then S's and C's are slow acting, they question, they're low risk takers. And then IS's, they're looking at, they're warm, but yet they're closed, not close. And then the D's, I's, they're fast acting, high risk, and being direct. So I'm sure because this is observable, you're probably thinking of your coworkers, your current boss, your former boss, your future boss, on what dimensions they have and what I'm very good at, what I could do better in, and how I can making effective decisions based on this information and where you're going and what you're doing. So now we're looking at another way of looking at your style. So this wheel, the insight wheel, is allowing you to kind of get plotted now. If you want to change and move to that page, when you're looking at the numbers of this wheel, it's really just related to a manual report, and it helps me plot people easier. So I can say, oh, Joe, you're 17, or Bill, you're 18, and that's your natural style, but you're adapting to 46, and it helps me just call out and work through a coaching process. So you can see how the behaviors are in the circle. And what I always like to do and share with everybody is there's a place for everybody in this workplace. And we're identifying what is your place, and then how do we relate this place to other departments and or other behavioral styles within a company. So with your pen, I would just kind of take your report and do a complete line straight down the middle from implementer to relator. So you're cutting that wheel right in half. And in general talks and general speakings, if I was to split that pie right in half, or that wheel, from the S and the C and the S side of your page, that is what I would call the back of the house. And then the D and the I is what I would call the front of the house of a company. So when I talk generally, when you're looking at that implementer to analyzer role, these individuals from an occupation standpoint, you can probably imagine they're going to be your IT professionals, they're going to be your engineers, they're going to be your accounting, they're going to be those working in finance. These are going to be individuals that need that strong left brain to be able to meet the demands of that role. They naturally go towards it, they naturally do it. And then as we go down to coordinator and supporter, you could be working in these departments, but maybe you're doing some type of support role. Maybe you're in accounts payable, an assistant accounting, working your way up to be a CFO. Maybe you're an engineer and you're starting off as an applications engineer and then working to a senior design engineer and then working to a director of design and engineering. Or you could be in manufacturing, or you could be a process engineer in this back of the house, or the same goes with the information technology world. And then when you're looking at the supporting individuals that work there naturally, that's where they kind of hang out. Then as we move our S going towards our I, these people are now starting to support the front of the house. So they're supporting sales and marketing, human resources possibly. These are your true blue service-oriented people. They could be in nursing, they could be in healthcare, they could be in a call center in customer service or what have you. They could be a CNC machinist. You know, so somewhat they're supporting and flexible to the front and the back of the house. And then when you get to the promoter, these individuals could be your salespeople, so it could be your HR people, sales and marketing people. And then obviously when we plotted the highest successful salespeople, the majority of them were in the promoter persuader realm, but we did have some really successful salespeople in the analyzer realm, but this is more of a solution sale. So maybe they're a sales engineer or selling an IT product or selling financial services. So you can be successful anywhere in the wheel depending on what that role is and the type of sale it is. And as we move our D up, it's safe to say that those Ds could be in more of a leadership role or a management role because they naturally are solving problems, moving forward, have a sense of urgency, get that promotion, and they could be in that sector. But you still can be a VP of sales and marketing and have a very low D because you have to remember we're looking at one science of self, which is your behaviors. And that's why later in the session we're going to talk about why you do the things you do, because that can move your behaviors to action. So I have seen people with low Ds be in a very high position, own their own business, because it's not how they do it, but it could be the why they're doing the things you're doing. So it's detrimental to one's professional development if we're only relying on one science of self, which is behaviors. It's a good starting point. It's good information to help better communicate, leverage it, but it's definitely not the end-all, be-all. So, you know, as you get this, and you'll be forward this and for this slide deck as well, but pay some attention of the words and the adjectives that are used around this wheel. So before we get to our motivators, I kind of want to go back to that report because we read about our characteristics, we read about our basic needs, we're reading about our best environment. We also may have a section of the best ways to communicate, best ways not to communicate. We're also leveraging some information on your potential weaknesses and your strengths. All those pages you can leverage in your interview process. And during the interview training, we'll kind of help you navigate that. So as you go to the end of your report, you want to take a look at occupations that are best suited for your behavioral style. Now, they may not be best suited for you, but they are best suited for your style of behavior. So this allows you the time to be Dora the Explorer, to look at saying, okay, I'm confirmed, this is the role I should be in, and now I'm going to leverage this information to get some action words to add to my resume, to add to my story, to add to my interview process, and actually when I start with another company. So you want to allow yourself to pursue those occupations. You know, consider it. Why are they suggesting this specific role? They're asking me to be a funeral director, but I'm not going to go out and get my funeral director license. But what are the characteristics that makes up a funeral director that I can leverage in my next position? So going back to that website, which is government run, is onetonline.org. This government website will allow you to put those numbers that you see on the left-hand side into that website, so then you can get what's the future outlook of this role. Is it a growing industry? What skills do I need? And what is the compensation outlook for this role? And how can I leverage it from that vantage point? So that concludes our DISC aspect of unpacking your toolbox, unpacking your DISC assessment, because now we're going to take the next segment and go into motivators. So the motivators is really talking about why you do the things you do. In our assessment, we use Target Training International, just so you know if you want to do additional research. That is the manufacturer of this assessment. They're located in Arizona. And we're starting with the 6 motivators that makes up and motivates an individual. So we have theoretical, utilitarian, aesthetic, social, individualistic, and traditional. When you're looking at all of those, we are measuring with these true definitions, we're measuring the primaries, so the highs of these being motivated by. So theoretical is being motivated, by learning, knowledge, so I will use my cognitive ability to understand, discover, and systemize the truth. These high theoreticals, they love to ask a lot of questions to get to the bottom of the truth. There's two types of theoreticals. They could be about a lot of different things or specifically to a specific craft. So in our business, I'm motivated by learning, but it's learning more as relates to career coaching and human capital. Someone may be motivated by learning when it relates to just engineering or IT. Or if you're motivated by a little bit of everything, these people are hard to beat at Trivial Pursuit because they naturally are motivated by learning, reading, and retaining that information. Utilitarian is seeing a return on time, money, energy of the investment that you're making. So my goal is to achieve a return on every investment I make in time, energy, or money. When I share with the you and when we talk about the individualistic, these motivators of why you do the things you do could be the hidden D. So your D may even be heightened if you're a high D, or if you're a low D, this could be what someone might be saying, wow, I thought you were a D, but it's really coming from the why you do the things you do. Aesthetics is I will enjoy and appreciate the form and harmony and beauty around me and allow it to mold me into all I can be. So you're looking at form and harmony of thyself. So you're accessorized from head to toe, or you're looking at harmony and beauty within the world. And this could be the environment. This could be nature walks. It's just seeing that harmony happen. Social is I will invest all resources in helping others to realize their potential in life. So you're helping others just to help. There's no underbelly reasons or rhyme. It's just that you naturally are motivated by others. So you're helping others in general, or you're giving of yourself. Individualistic, I will achieve the highest position and yield the greatest power. So it's being in control of your destiny. When you're motivated by this, this also, like I mentioned earlier, is the hidden D. So you may be getting to that next level. When I mentioned that low D VP of Sales and Marketing, his top two motivators was individualistic and utilitarian. So he wanted to get himself, let alone the company, to that next level. Then you have traditional. This is beliefs or systems. From many individuals, this is coming from a meaning of life. I will seek and select a follow. Seek, select, and follow a system for living. It could be a religious system. It could be a political system. It could be an ethical system, but they are definitely motivating by having that system for living. Sometimes high traditionals, they're unbending. There's no right, they're an absolute, so it's either black or it's white, and they don't live in the gray too much, depending on where their traditional lies. So everybody has personal motivator rankings, and you will be looking at your report. Some are strong, situational, or indifferent. We see the world through windows of our motivators, colored by our top two and our bottom two. So that's why it's important as a coach and working with our assessment center. Yes, let's talk about the primaries and the 6 motivators, but it's also important to really understand the lows of an individual. So if I'm not motivated by intellectual or theoretical, what does that mean? And this is where we come up with your driving forces, and there's 12 of them. So we're going to talk about theoretical. Remember, is being motivated by knowledge. So if you're a high theoretical, we are now translating that into being intellectual. So people who are driven by opportunities to learn, acquire knowledge, and discover the truth. But if they're a low intellectual, this just means that people are driven by utilizing past experiences, intuition, and seek specific knowledge when necessary. So we're doing this for each of the categories. So if you look at resourceful, that goes back to time, money, investment. But if you're not resourceful and not motivated by them, this just means that you are driven by completing tasks for the greater good with little expectations of personal return. Social and individualistics. And in your online assessment, or when you had your one-on-one, you actually have cheat sheets for this. I just kind of want to bring it to your attention as we continue with the driving force and aspect. So social, remember, being motivated by others. So if you have a low social, or maybe not a priority at this moment, you're still going to be driven, but you're going to have a specific purpose of what that means. So you're not just going to be helpful for just the sake of helping, but you're going to be very purposeful on who you help, or maybe what nonprofit you're going to support because there's a purpose to you. On the other hand, if you're a high altruistic, You're just going to be servicing for the satisfaction of being helpful and supportive, no matter who, what, or where. Individualistic power, so you're driven by status, recognition, control, or personal freedom. But if you're on the low side of that, then you're looking at people who are driven by being in a supporting role and contributing with little or no need for recognition. And then we have continuation, repeated individualistic, but then also traditional methodologies. Okay, so it is important for you to go to your driving forces, look at your report. Your report, so your motivators, also has great characteristics of strengths and weaknesses that come from your motivation. Now what we need to do is pull it all together. But for this purpose, we're really just looking at understanding how we can leverage this information. So if you're, an individual who high D&I and also motivated by money, maybe we need to make sure that we look at opportunities and occupations that allow you to make sure you're nurturing your how and your why. So when you're looking, this does impact your work experience, so it just allows you to see a different lens of how people are perceiving you and how you are looking and perceiving and seeing the world from an open-minded standpoint and using the science of self to leverage your next career position. So your homework assignment is making sure you are going through your online coursework. Review your assessment. Look at the handouts that have been given to you. And in this specific section, there are some self-debriefing guides, but the people that are on this program, you'll be giving this through your online course and or through other one-on-one coaching sessions. So this does complete our broadcast in regards to unpacking your DISC assessment. After this, you want to schedule your next one-on-one session with your specific coach or dive into your online course, and we'll take it from there. Once again, congratulations in taking ownership of your background and really helping you utilize this information to help you on your career journey to work in today's new normal economy.